conducted as a virtual meeting in accordance with Ohio open meeting laws and section 101.21 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976. This meeting is being held using the Zoom platform and may be observed on YouTube and on TV channel 20, as well as being live streamed online at TV 20. This committee hearing will be conducted as all committee hearings in accordance with the council rules and Robert's Rules of Order. The chair will facilitate the meeting and call on persons to speak. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand option on Zoom, and please limit your comments to the matters before today's committee meeting. As is usual practice, any action to be voted on during this committee will be done by voice vote, called and recorded by the committee clerk as required by Rule 15. We have a couple pieces today, and the first is a zoning piece. Ordinance number 842-2021 by Councilmember Conwell, changing the use, area, and height districts of parcels of land northeast and southwest of Lakeview Road of Beulah Avenue to the East Cleveland City line, map change 2626. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Francatelli.
Present.
Hairston. Gray.
Here.
Griffin.
Here.
Bashir Jones. McCormick.
Present.
Slife.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Director Collier, you are up. Is Shannon making this presentation? Unmute yourself, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Good.
Great. Yeah, I'm just going to provide a little context, and Shannon Leonard of our zoning staff will actually make the detailed presentation. I'll be available for any questions. As you all know, as part of the mayor's neighborhood transformation efforts, we've been focused on strategic areas within the city that have been inherently disadvantaged. Part of that work was identifying key neighborhoods and sub-districts within the city of Cleveland, where we can deploy a kit of tools that include everything from investing in mixed use, capital improvements, strategic demolitions, and most importantly, deploying our regulatory ability through zoning. What you're about to see is an area of the Glenville neighborhood that really focuses on reimagining these properties within the Circle North footprint that actually border East Cleveland. This rezoning is strategic and is a part of that overall initiative. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon to walk you through the specifics of the rezoning, and then we'll be available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning, Chairman. Shannon Leonard, City Planning. I can share my screen.
Yes, you can.
Good morning. Can everybody see? So this is really around the Huff Bakery site and really adaptive reuse, as Director Collier had stated. Thank you. So the purpose of this rezoning is really to promote sustainable adaptive reuse of the historic Huff Bakery headquarters site and enhance the care to the neighborhood here along the East Cleveland border. It's also to ensure that future development is comprehensive and meets the community's needs, to promote a diversity of housing types, and to maintain and enhance some of the historic commercial nodes of the neighborhood, while also promoting equity and safety by encouraging a vibrant pedestrian experience. So background on this rezoning. So this rezoning really began back in 2019. In the fall of 2019, we met with community development, FAMICOs, Councilman Conwell, and several other stakeholders in this area. We did a thorough analysis of the Mine Glenville Neighborhood Master Plan, as well as the 2020 Connecting Cleveland Comprehensive Plan. And again, this was a collaboration between all of the stakeholders, including city planning, our neighborhood planners, Rhonda Watley, residents, et cetera. And so the Mike Glenville Neighborhood Plan, as you can see here, this is kind of just a snapshot of it, of the area that we're discussing today, really discusses the needs the community needs for infill housing, a learning village, market rate townhomes, mixed uses. They wanted neighborhood retail, as well as intergenerational housing. And we believe that this rezoning kind of meets those needs going forward. The current zoning at this location, as you can see, is a mix of 2-family and multifamily, as well as local retail, semi-industry, and general industry. And so I'm going to really walk you through each section. So this is the proposed rezoning. As you can see, it's a mix of residential, so that we get different types of housing types here, as well as maintaining some of the existing residential fabric that exists, including home ownership. There's local retail and some important nodes, limited retail, and then adding specific setbacks and an urban form overlay. So the first section, as you can see here in yellow, is two-family residential D1. And this is really to align with existing land use, as well as securing property owners' assets and to ensuring future development is infill housing. And so along this area we really went back and forth on what to zone it. And we actually went out and walked the neighborhood and met the property owner here at this white house on your left-hand side of the screen along Lakeview. And so it was really important for us as a department, as well as the councilman, to keep this area zone 2 family in this area, as well as along East 123rd and along Auburn, so that we get a mix of housing types, as well as to be able to maintain the current existing property owners when new development comes. And again, this is along East 120th Street. And again, this is existing land use, as well as to maintain the current houses. As you can see along Wade Park, there's a few new homes that are also in this two-family. Those are actually single-family homes. And so two-family does allow single-family and two-family. And then the brown area that you see here circled in yellow is proposed to be multifamily D1. And that's really to align with the existing land use. There's several apartment buildings still here that can be redeveloped or brought more in line with today's housing, as well as to ensure that future development is diverse, so that we have a diverse type of infill housing. And there's a view here on East 120th Street. These are two-family homes, and south on Lakeview, you can see that there's room for infill housing. The next section is in red. As you can see here along Wade Park here, there is a node that's already local retail, as well as this large triangular area is also, we are proposing to make local retail G2. The southern local retail section, we're just upping the area and height to be in line with the urban fabric with the Huff Bakery proposal across the street. So we're really just wanting to align the existing uses with the neighborhood plan, as well as encourage neighborhood-oriented infill business. And so my Glenville area here calls for neighborhood retail, and we just want to make sure that the zoning is in place for that. And again, this is the northern quarter here of East 124th. Is also currently local retail. We're simply just upping the area as well as the height to again align with the existing fabric, as well as any future development that may go on at this location. The next section is in pink, and we are proposing limited retail G2. This is the actual 1519 Huff Bakery site. This is the historic Huff Bakery headquarters. Unfortunately, I was not in Cleveland when Huff Bakery was in its prime, but I've heard lots about it from my husband, as well as other family members and colleagues in the area. And so the proposal here is limited retail, and that's really to allow the adaptive reuse so that you get residential as well as maybe light neighborhood retail, restaurant dining, and small commercial that is an amenity to the residential that is being proposed at this location. And so as you can see, these are the existing conditions of the Huff Bakery. As you can see, it's in disrepair. It's been abandoned for quite some time. And the fact that there is really some interest in development of this site will be key not only to this side of Cleveland, but also to our East Cleveland neighbors. And south of Wade Park, we are also proposing changing that general industry. That's historic railroad tracks. Right north of that on the large historic parking lot of the Huff Bakery is townhomes that have already been approved by City Planning Commission. And so we really just want to ensure that any future development is comprehensive and it meets the community's needs. So really just bringing that section in line with the residential that's already existing along Wade Park and East 123rd, but also the new townhomes that are going right directly on the tracks at the border there. The next section you'll see is along the map, there was the urban form overlay. And this is really just to promote equity and safety by encouraging a vibrant pedestrian experience. So when we have new development, that it really caters to making sure that our sidewalks are safe, bringing the street wall to the street, and making sure that we have facade articulation and patios, as well as the right amount of parking, as well as good walkable building design. And then along East 124th Street, you have very small lots. And so as you can see, the houses come straight to the sidewalk, but they're very, very shallow lots. And so in our code, typically front yard setbacks for infill development would need to be 15% of the average depth of the lot if they're not next to existing homes. So we're proposing putting 5-foot specific map setbacks here. As you may know, a specific map setback is a required front yard space in which no structure may be located, indicated on the building zone maps of the city. They take precedence and they're only allowed to be changed with legislation. And so putting these 5-foot specific map setbacks will add to the existing streetscape. And we believe that that is necessary for any type of infill development along these shallow lots. And so that is the overall proposal. So basically encouraging a variety of housing types as new development comes in, really being able to bring the zoning in line with the expected development of the Huff Bakery site, as well as those key commercial neighborhood nodes, and making sure that we have the right amenities for our neighborhoods. And just again, promoting housing diversity and equity in this far east section of Cleveland. Any questions? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Shannon. This is the public comment portion of the meeting. I have a few responses that came in that the clerk had forward. And so either Shannon, and just a FYI, I have talked to Councilman Conwell and fully supports this. Either Shannon or Director can answer, and we can make sure we reach back out to these folks. One note, Miss Fanny Hamilton, who resides at 1479 Lakeview Road. She wants to know how her property will be affected by the rezoning.
So we met Fanny Hamilton, me and Sharonda, actually back in the fall of 2019 when we went out and measured the setbacks. And her property is actually that house I told you with the white house with the brown trim. And so this is actually her property is a single family home. And so she is one of the key drivers is why we left this section of Lakeview Road north and immediately northwest of the Huff Bakery site. We decided to zone this area to family. And that was really so that any new development wouldn't push Miss Fanny Hamilton out of her home, and so that she could maintain her home as is, as a single family resident.
Great, thank you. We'll make sure we circle back and follow up on that outreach. The other note I got was from a MC King, President and CEO of MC Company. He writes, after careful review of the received notice of the public hearing ordinance number 842/2021, we provide the following comments for consideration and review of proposed zoning changes. First comment, the medical center company owns and operates a 1 megawatt solar farm addressed at 12401 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland. The 5-acre site, corner of Lakeview and Euclid Avenue, which supplies residential electricity to the community. See proposed map change, parcel G1B3. Second note was per the committee's map change 2626. Parcel G1B3 is recommended to be rezoned limited retail G2. It is notable to distinguish that the medical center company solar farm is brownfield redevelopment site and is part of the voluntary action program, risk mitigation plan, property use restriction and environmental covenant with the Ohio Environmental EPA. The property is restricted use property and will need to be zoned appropriately to meet environmental covenants set forth by the Ohio EPA. For further questions, please reach out to Ohio EPA for additional response. Is there any comments regarding that note?
Yes, really quick. As I look at the zoning map, if you notice at the bottom right of the zoning map, it says general industry B3, and it has pink for limited retail, and there's a slither of that parcel that looks like it's included. The solar farm is off of the outside of the that blotched area, but it does look like it takes in a portion of that site. You can see the hash lines behind the actual legend on the map which is untouched. That's where your solar farm is. So that GIB3 section, Shannon, that goes like through the tracks, and then it stops short of that solar farm. But it looks like there's a portion of that site that may be included. Is that an error on the map?
No, that's not an error. That portion of the solar farm would not be affected by the change in zoning to limited retail at this location. That includes the tracks.
Okay.
All right, great.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we communicate that back then to that company. And then the last letter I received from Lee Wolf Battiani. I'm a resident of the area subject to significant rezoning under ordinance 842/2021. My address is 12024 Wade Park Avenue. I have several concerns about the impact of adding retail and multifamily zoning to our neighborhood. First note, parking, the streets are narrow and already packed with residents' parked cars. How will parking be addressed as part of this rezoning? What parking space to retail square footage ratio will be required for the retail areas? And how will residential parking work on streets that are added housing units? The second point is traffic. As mentioned, the streets are already narrow and mostly don't have adequate lines, markings. Will this be addressed? Adding retail traffic in an area that streets aren't clearly lined or marked will just add headaches for local residential drivers. And there's also a blind corner on Wade Park between 122nd and 123rd. Will this area of the road be addressed as part of the project to make it less sharp and dangerous? And then third, pedestrian safety. Will additional traffic signals and crosswalks be installed for safety? Several of the intersections surrounding the areas being rezoned for retail, East 123rd and Ashbury, Wade Park and Lakeview, Ashbury and Lakeview, have low visibility due to curves in the streets. And with increased traffic flow, will this get more dangerous? Thank you for considering my comments and concerns as a resident of this area. I'm excited about the work being done to reinvigorate the community, and look forward to the council addressing resident concerns as part of this process. So the three parts are parking, traffic, and pedestrian safety.
So that's a very layered set of questions. So we're going to try to unpack those one by one. It sounds like that almost sounds like Ohio City question, Councilman McCormick. So I think that's a good thing that we're starting to see this type of activity in the Glenville community.
Absolutely.
All right. So first and foremost, there was the concern about the retail component of this. If you notice where Shannon has overlaid the urban form overlay, these are really small, tight areas. You guys have seen all over the city where you may have these little tight retail districts within a neighborhood that are really meant for pedestrians in neighborhoods. I think what'll really be impactful is how those places and spaces are used. These will not be destination type retail facilities. With respect to that Lakeview 123rd Ashbury, I don't know what type of shape that is, but it's somewhat of a triangle. That again is going to be pretty dense. The idea here is to create this sort of intimacy in this really tight walkable sort of area here. And that's the point. And when you look at the area where 124th connects with Lakeview, that small sort of node there, that's a very, small node. Most of the properties here, if you look at the map, are blown out and vacant. And that is why it's so important for us to restore the value back and really start filling these things in. The single family will have obviously driveways and garages for folks who will be purchasing in that area. The more dense developments also, Shannon alluded to the one that's going to be just, if you can use your cursor, Shannon, by the tracks, just on the other side of the solar farm, that will have its own, parking, areas in there. So you're going to have a good enough parking ratio to address parking. Now, let me say this, and I'm not going to hesitate about saying this, and this may make some uncomfortable. The world is evolving with respect to the automobile, and people are utilizing alternative modes of transportation. Also, with respect to being close to any type of rapid transit facility, we're trying to leverage that. So the community itself, we believe, does have enough parking to accommodate what we intend to see over here, which is a combination of condo development, apartment style development, as well as single family. And that's meeting our broader city objective to have housing choice within these neighborhoods for residents to move up and down the economic spectrum and be able to stay in the neighborhood as their housing needs change. So that kind of addresses somewhat of the retail and the parking question. There was a third component. So if you can just reiterate that third piece.
So the over was around pedestrian safety, being able to mark the streets and the crosswalks appropriately for safety, pedestrian safety.
Yeah, so two things in reference to that. When we work in these areas, particularly around the transformation efforts, as well as what you'll see with the middle neighborhoods work, capital improvements are a part of that. And when we make these investments, we do put forth effort to try to improve crosswalk and things of that nature. As you know, infrastructure dollars can tend to be limited, but there are monies that are on the table and coming down. And when we go in here, we do the street improvements over in this section. Now, there's a couple of areas that I think very good points were made. So you see that sharp triangle at Ashbury Avenue and Lakeview Road. I think that is what the gentleman may have been referencing when he was talking about blind spots. So making sure that there's appropriate crosswalks there is a priority. One thing we are advocating for is, making sure that we can get time traffic signals where you have the countdown so that people can, safely, particularly seniors and, young people can make sure that they're able to traverse this area, given the amount of human traffic you're going to be adding to it.
That's great. I think, that density and making it more walkable certainly is a critical component as we rebuild, especially these nodes that have had significant clearing from distressed buildings. So, Madam Clerk, did we have any other public comment that came in?
I'm sorry. Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman.
Can you go ahead and read that?
Will do. One is from Phyllis McGowan. She says, hello, I received a notice of an upcoming meeting concerning development planning and sustainability on Lakeview Road and the surrounding area. What does this mean for me as a property owner? Will my property value change? Is the city's intention to force out the area residents? My properties are located at 1456 and 1458 Lakeview, and I have witnessed major developments going on all around me. This is why I am concerned. Please share any enlightenment you can concerning this upcoming meeting.
So I want to first start by saying humbled by that question and appreciate that question, because that's a universal question that we get whenever there's a significant investment. And I'm sure every council person on this phone has fielded that particular question. Our answer is always this. None of our intention is ever to push anyone out of their neighborhood. That is not the intention. The intention is to add value to the neighborhood. Now, to the young lady's question who posed that, I would be lying if I did not say when you make these investments that property values change in neighborhoods. The hope is that her property value increases. We also know that the implications of property taxes could be impacted. And depending on who you are, that could cut both ways. But our intention is to stabilize and restore value back to every neighborhood that we're making these investments in. And I know that this council and others are working, diligently to make sure that the G word does not happen, gentrification, and also that individuals from a policy perspective are not negatively impacted on the back end, whether it's taxes or otherwise. But we believe that this is a strategy that can actually help existing property owners. And I'll say this lastly, with the investment, there's also support for programs from a financial standpoint for existing property owners who may need to improve their property. So I would love to get an understanding of the conditions of the person who made the inquiry, what their properties are, and if they have any needs in order to improve their properties. So this could be advantageous for her and this individual in many ways. And I will be honest to say that it could also, in the long run, maybe have some concerning implications as well. But that's something that we are all, from the council to the administration, committed to managing.
And I commend you, Director, through the mayor's transformation plan. It was very purposeful to engage with organizations like Community Housing Solutions and others that have resources set aside to help address the needs of those in the community. And then also from a policy standpoint, we've been working with our advocates and folks who are looking to get the state to enact things like the Loop program that will help, as markets start to improve, freeze property owners' taxes so that we're not forcing people out as property values rise, which is what we're all aiming to see as our neighborhood stabilize.
That's a great question.
I received another correspondence from Bo Knez from Knez Construction. Dear committee members, the following letter is submitted as a comment for the October 26th public hearing on ordinance 842/2021, changing the use area and height districts of parcels. BR Knez Construction is heavily invested in the Circle North area of Glenville, where the proposed rezoning is to take place. To date, we have built 15 to 20 single-family homes, or in the process of building 18-unit townhome development on the corner of East 120th and Ashbury, and have additional holdings, development agreements, and land bank agreements in this area, including a planned 25-unit development on Lakeview and Ashbury, single-family and townhomes parcels adjacent to Huff Bakery, and redevelopment of the Huff Bakery itself. Knez is committed to fulfilling the vision of the mayor's neighborhood transformation initiative in Circle North. With that in mind, we respectfully bring to the committee's attention that incorporating the urban form overlay, specifically 34804, requiring no vinyl siding be used on new construction, will be a detriment to the continued redevelopment of the neighborhood. As mentioned above, we currently have plans for the majority of the areas where the urban overlay will be enacted. Using vinyl siding, especially in the current volatile market for construction materials, allows us to keep our costs down and offer homes at prices that can be sustained by the neighborhood currently. We fear that the requirements of more expensive material will stifle the growth in Circle North that Knez and the city have worked so hard to achieve. We respectively ask this to take concern under advisement as you consider ordinance 842/2021. Director?
Yeah, so we definitely would take that under advisement, but let me also be clear about this. When we invest in what we have previously known as marginalized communities or communities that have received this investment, one of the things that we don't want to compromise on is we want to try to do that and maintain a level of quality. And quality materials are important. This is something I remember with Councilman Griffin, and I had discussions about this some time ago with respect to even, the Buckeye Woodland area, where you have this perception that when you make these investments, you have to do it on the cheap. We have to make sure that the materials that are used are quality, and Mr. Knez is a great developer in the city of Cleveland who's committed to doing that. But in some instances, we have to really go back and forth, about materiality. Oftentimes also we've seen where residents, when they see quality development, they don't think that it's for them. And that's another myth that we want to try to dispel. So if we can, begin to, continue to work together, which we will, and I appreciate Mr. Knez's, inquiry, we have to make sure that that balance is reached with respect to investing, making it cost effective for the developer, but also utilizing materials that will help to strengthen and stabilize the neighborhood.
I appreciate those comments, and I certainly understand the urban overlay really actually gives more reliability to developers to understand what they can build and what the expectations are. And of course, these are all subject to variances or if a need has to come forward, they can bring that to the city, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Madam Clerk, did we have any other additional comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. That closes the public comment portion of this. We will now open it up to council members. Council members, do you have any comments on 842/2021? I'm sorry, can you close the screen? I cannot see any hands. Oh, there we go. Any additional comments on 842/2021? No further comments. 8/42/2021 stands approved as read. Thank you all very much. What a great presentation, and really looking forward as these projects evolve. With that, we will close the zoning and open up to Development Planning Sustainability Committee. The next piece of legislation, speaking of incredible projects, Ordinance 867/2021 by Council Members Bankatelli and Kelly. By department request, authorize the Director of Economic Development to enter a development agreement with Bedrock Management Services LLC or their designee for the purpose of determining and planning the private development and related infrastructure improvements to implement the development of the project area consistent with the vision for the Valley Plan. Which director is taking the lead on this? Director Ebersol?
Yep, I will start and we'll go from there. This is an exciting project, a partnership that we were approached with Bedrock earlier this year and have been in the process of defining out how we're going to implement what will be, I think, a multi-year development strategy that will activate that segment of our Cuyahoga Riverfront along in front of Terminal Tower and down towards Gateway, and really help open access from downtown to the waterfront. The proposed development agreement between the city and Bedrock will outline the steps that the two parties will take over the next 18 months to identify the improvements that will be made, the resources that will be required to do so, the infrastructure improvements that will be needed, as well as the timing for the development strategy and community engagement plan. Director Collier will talk. I'll ask him to talk in a minute about all the work that he's done in leading the vision for the Valley discussion that I think most of us are pretty familiar with, but you know, the riverfront has really long been ignored as a development opportunity, and I think this will really be a keystone discussion to that. But before I turn it over to my colleague, I'm going to ask the Bedrock team and Nadia Cisse from that team to talk a little bit about sort of their vision here. I have a brief presentation I'm going to share, if that's okay. If I can get the screen share.
Happy to share if that's okay too. Good morning.
Okay.
Director, can we make sure the director gets a share screen as well as with Nadia?
They both have the ability.
Okay, Director, can you put your couple slides up and then we'll have a presentation for Nadia?
Yeah, I'm getting a disabled screen sharing error here.
Uh-oh.
All right, then I guess we're gonna.
Try it now.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
There it is. Okay, I'll turn it over to Nadia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for hearing this item. Really appreciate the opportunity to present before you. I must say it's good morning, Chairman Brancatelli and council members. Thank you so much for hearing this item. I'm Nadia Cisse, the Chief Community Growth and Development Officer. And thank you, Director Ebersol, for leading the conversation. I'm really looking forward to working with the current administration and the new administration, and more importantly, the City Council and public and private stakeholders and community organizations to really develop the plan. This plan, if the City Council approves this, it really would allow us to work with the city to develop and adopt a development plan for the development area, which will establish the scope of private development and related improvements. The development plan is intended to align with the vision of the Valley. And, you know, my team has worked extensively with Freddie Collier, Director Collier, to make sure that what we're looking at will not only align, but would also be based on the foundation of equity and inclusion to create a mixed-use destination neighborhood along the river. Next slide, please. What we expect during the due diligence period, the following are expected to occur. I'll highlight a few of them, really to identify the preliminary scope of Bedrock improvements, to identify scope of infrastructure improvements, also to make sure we take into account plans for repairing and replacing the Cuyahoga River bulkhead, also to establish a timeline for development activities and the required reporting of the development activities. We also are going to prioritize the implementation of community outreach plan and really identify community benefits that are anticipated, working with the city council, as well as community organizations and the rest. And more importantly, we intend to identify zoning solutions and really develop goals for inclusion for small, local, and diverse contractors, consultants, residents, and other service providers to really maximize diversity, equity, and inclusion. We really want to take advantage of what's happening at the federal level. It's unprecedented, and we'll work collaboratively to identify and secure sources that include private, public, civic, and philanthropic resources to really develop this project. Next slide, please. And we stop. Next slide, please. Thank you. Given the importance of the riverfront to the downtown, it is important to tie the infrastructure to a broader area than just the immediate area abutting the Bedrock's properties to ensure that we're upgrading the aging infrastructure and public right-of-ways. So what this slide shows is really it's identifying the Bedrock FOC properties and really the proposed approximate study area that we'll be embarking on during this 18-month period to really address not just our buildings and the necessary improvement, but also the infrastructure that abuts our property as well as the surrounding area. Next slide, please. The following are renderings and conceptual renderings of the vision of the development. As was mentioned earlier, we'll be guiding this district to be a mixed-use, mixed-income neighborhood with a focus on growing a much larger downtown residential population. To support this new density of residential population, we're going to be projecting the additional programming that includes office, retail, hospitality, public spaces, etc., really responding to what's needed for a destination downtown, but also in responding to some of the amenities and that would be needed for residents for the city of Cleveland. Our project, as discussed earlier, envisions that it aligns with the vision of the valley and the new public river walk along the Cuyahoga River, creating a series of tiered plaza that will, I think you skipped steps, well, that's slide, that will better connect the existing public spaces in downtown. Over the next 18 months, we'll be working with the city to really coordinate that vision and with the imperatives of our development assumptions. Next slide. The area along the Cuyahoga suffers from outdated and diverse infrastructure. With this vision, we will be turning these challenges into opportunities, really taking a look at the outdated infrastructure, making sure we redesign the streets, making sure we incorporate new streets and take into account sustainable infrastructure that incorporates recycled water, green infrastructure, district energy systems, digital access, waste management. So over the next 18 months, we'll be looking forward to working with the city collaboratively to really define the design infrastructure. Next slide, please. In this rendering, you can see how important the relationship is between the ground floor program, sidewalks, excuse me, street sections, and public spaces. This rendering illustrates the importance of Tower City as a legacy building and public connector of downtown Cleveland. While we're working on increased activations for this building by offering free programming like Battle of the Land at the Tower City, we're also working on leasing more Tower City storefronts to local minority-owned businesses through our partnership with Jackson's Closet, which was active and open this weekend, and Mia Moore and Peach Fuzz. In addition to these immediate improvements to Tower City, we're outlining a series of long-term strategy that better connects Public Square to Tower City and to the riverfront through a much improved pedestrian experience. As shown in this rendering, one way that can be done is by creating series of stepped public spaces from Tower City down to the Riverwalk. With that, I will conclude my presentations. Thank you so much for hearing us out. I'm here to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just an exciting opportunity to reshape this portion of our riverfront that has long been kind of a stagnant or stale area with little opportunity to grow. A couple of quick questions. First and foremost is on slide one. Just a quick comment as this has been presented, Planning Commission, and has been around. Just a number of folks who have commented positively about this. Looking at major waterfront areas, including as far as places like Tampa, that have said this really reminds them of the Riverwalk and Bay transformation that occurred there years ago. One of the questions on, I think it's slide number 5, the concern around industry and the relationship to industry. We passed legislation a couple of years back called the riparian setback around development up to the river. How does this relate to, I guess, what you would look as housing development and recreational boating in relationship to industry, as you see this big iron ore ship scooting back past the sales ships there?
Yeah, I think, and maybe Director Collier might have something to touch on this as well, but I'll kind of address the big issue with the riverfront in industry is the bulkheading. And so one of the, I think, key items that we're flagging as we're going to be working over the next year or so on the project is, what does the bulkhead look like along the river, which then the choices and the options you have there, whether you use a hard bulkhead, a green bulkhead, if you use marina space, that then influences, I think, how you can engage with the river recreationally. And so, you look at the development and it's all about, you see all these pictures of things on land, but I think it's intrinsically linked to the river, and that's one of the key items that we've flagged to work here. So I don't know if Director Collier or Nadia have more to add on that.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and legit question. As you know, many of us have been working diligently, this is including Councilman McCormick and a number of us, with respect to how we can address this issue of recreation versus utilitarian vessels. In the Vision for the Valley Plan, it had some pretty bold recommendations with respect to the prospect of, in strategic locations, cutting inland to create docking areas that take boats off of that main channel. With respect to the actual land side, development, one of the things you talked about was the riparian setback. This city council passed the riparian setback ordinance a number of years ago. I believe it was maybe 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And we looked at all waterways in the city, and we put a setback on there. The problem was, because this is the federal navigable channel, we could not apply the riparian setback. We believe that would have been beneficial. We are working now in conjunction to determine how we can strategically create access for parcels, privately owned as well as publicly owned parcels so that pedestrians can have access to traverse up and down that river. Matter of fact, it was a discussion that we were just having this morning over text messaging with Councilman McCormick. So we take this issue extremely serious with respect to pedestrian access. But the hurdle of making sure that you have this completely sort of safe environment with respect to recreation and utilitarian vessels, there are a number of strategies that we're going to have to deploy from signage to other things. The Foundry and many other facilities are down there. And this is something that we're going to have to really take seriously as we continue to move forward. And lastly, we are looking to David Ebersol, Director Ebersol's point. We have a technical assistance panel that we're putting together with the Urban Land Institute next week. We're going to be bringing in a number of experts who are going to be coming in who have experience investing in bulkheads and leveraging those bulkheads, not just for the stability of the shoreline, but also looking at those bulkheads where they can be designed in a way where they can provide some of that pedestrian access. So again, this is something we're taking extremely seriously, and it's a legitimate question.
Great. I know you've been working with organizations like FASTAR and others around safety along the channel and along with the Foundry and other organizations. So that's an important component. I have Councilman Jones and then Councilman McCormick.
Thank you so much, Chair. I really appreciate it. And I have some comments in just the miscellaneous when that comes up. I actually love it. I want to say, I know there was a lot of public comment in regards to this Bedrock family and what they're doing. And I appreciate it. Let me ask this question though. I see this specific slide that's up, Chair. It says Bedrock Detroit. Is that Cleveland or is that Detroit?
Yeah, that's Cleveland.
That's Cleveland, but I think Bedrock, the whole office, I think you've got a big, I'll let Nadia address it specifically, but they're getting more and more people here in Cleveland and we're really excited to have them. So
Good.
I'm going to ask her to comment.
Nadia, we need a Bedrock Cleveland right there, okay?
We'll take that back with us. That's a good feedback. Thank you for that.
Councilman Jones, if I could just interject real quick. Nadia, can you talk about the employment base of Bedrock and the growth of Bedrock? So it could be Bedrock, Cleveland, Detroit, but just speak a little bit on the number of employees that you have and that you're bringing here.
So we do have extensive workforce in the mortgage, a family of companies in the city of Cleveland. And my last count, and I can verify, we have about a couple of hundred of them. I can double check that. About 800 in terms of from the mortgage family. We also have Cleveland Cavaliers also, and the staff that hired or team members to monitor and work through those. Bedrock also has a presence in Cleveland as well. So we already feel like we're stakeholders in Cleveland. I think Bedrock is now intending on not just being a stakeholder, also being a participant by really expanding our footprint and making sure we improve our properties. The expectation is that we can build on that and grow, not just with team members from Bedrock and the family of companies, but more importantly, increase the job resident population.
Thank you. Thank you. And Councilman Jones, that's a great catch on the slide of Bedrock Detroit. So continue. Thank you.
It is the name. Apologies.
Actually, I was going somewhere in that, so I didn't want you to think I was giving you any. But Nadia, I have a lot of friends from Senegal, and their last name is Cisse, but your last name Cisse is spelled differently from their Cisse. I didn't know if it was the same thing.
Oh yeah, my Cisse is spelled that way, but it's from Sierra Leone. So,
yeah. So I do want to say to the public that there was a lot of a lot of issues that people were given to Dan Gilbert and his team for investing in Detroit, as if the plan wasn't to do anything in Cleveland. And what we're seeing is that, and unfortunately, we don't do it enough, Chair. We're just not really patient with progress and processes. But we see that that this has always been a part of the goal to build in Cleveland as well. So I'm really thankful to see the work that Bedrock is doing, and to not just own a basketball team here, but to really be engaged within the community. Chair, to Ms. Cisse, where are you? Have you all begun to have dialogue with people like Norman Edwards, who represents the Black Contractors Group? You have organizations here who I think we want to be able to see a serious opportunity. But this is an opportunity for Black contractors and women-owned women-owned companies and others to be a part of such growth in this city. So will you be looking for the builders and the developers and the architects and so on and so on to come from this city, or are you bringing them from somewhere else?
That is the plan. And we our team members, to respond back to the prior question, I just got a response that we have a total of 1,500 team members in Cleveland. But more specifically, we know we have been talking to the Reverend Norman, but the intent is to really build a robust community outreach plan that would really make sure that we build a community benefit that really identifies and prioritizes, so that we can be intentional about who we hire, what businesses we hire, how we make adjustments to the way we initiate bids so that it's reflective and diverse and inclusive, so we can hire local, small business, and minority. We also want to make sure as we build out, we're thoughtful about the end users, as well as making sure that even residents, the programs we ultimately decide on is reflective of the community. In my experience, we've been successful in doing that in my prior life, but our intent is really to prioritize local residents in the city of Cleveland.
Sure. So I would just make a suggestion through the chair that from the top down, and I don't mean that as level of importance, just in regards to from the developer to who's providing services in these buildings, who's providing the toilet paper, who's providing
Exactly.
I mean, from the top up and down, I would really urge, and I look forward to really being of assistance as well, to make sure that we have the developers, make sure the architects, and make sure the services that's coming out of the community is also reflective of the community, and engaging with the right community members who are not just protesting the protest, but who are truly want to see inclusivity with the complete project. I think it's amazing. Congratulations to Councilman McCormick. I mean, congratulations to the city of Cleveland. I think it's going to be really beautiful. I want to say openly thank you to Bedrock you could have easily stayed in Detroit. You guys are doing great there. But for the fact that you are coming here to Cleveland and adding such value, which I think can be very transformational. I loved what you said, that not only is it about the building of the buildings or even the services, but also who will live there. We want to make sure that, if there's a young professional, or as a person who's been living in Glenville for years who wants to, move downtown, they should feel comfortable price-wise and the environment to be able to move here. So I'm really interested in having some more dialogue with you all about that, and just being a part of that and assisting with that inclusivity. And once again, thank you for your investment in the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Jones, and certainly thank you for staying laser focused on this. As you expect as chair, to do my due diligence in meeting with them and understanding their workforce was a critical part of our review early on, and engaging local contractors, engaging and trying to bring on new employees to the city. They've been laser focused on making sure that they're very inclusive and do the outreach finding quality employees, finding good participants in this is critically important, but also how it relates to our city. And keeping public access for our city has been a critical part of the mayor and the planning director to make sure that we have full access to our public. And then their plan that they outlined around community outreach and community benefits that are anticipated is a big part of one of their components of this. So thank you for doing that. And now our local councilman, Councilman McCormick, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you hearing this today, and for the team here as well, and Director Ebersol. I just wanted to say a couple other things. Councilman Jones did a great job kind of teeing this up. The conversation in front of us is kind of a general agreement and more of a bigger picture conversation, which I appreciate. And, having had the opportunity to meet with the Bedrock team to really discuss the vision here, I think some of the exciting elements of this, of course, what we can see in front of us, which is interacting with public space and on our riverfront, and how important that is, as you noted, a really underutilized section of the downtown neighborhood, as well as the city of Cleveland, quite frankly. As we know, this connects to one of our largest transit hubs, connects to job centers, connects to all sorts of different amenities in the downtown neighborhood. So it's really exciting to see this vision start to kick off. I know that there's still a lot of time and process to go in order to make this a reality, but I think that this type of public-private partnership can really enable something like this to happen. So it's really exciting, and the conversations I've had with the team have included the need for mixed income housing, as Councilman Jones noted, how important that is. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it's also, it's about a sustainability, providing housing options for people of all income levels. I think is critically important. And that is something that has been offered up. And I just want to publicly state how important I think that is, and how we have to hold ourselves, all of us, accountable to make sure that that happens. Because, we know that if you don't need a car and you can walk to your job, that makes your life just already much more affordable. We don't think about this is, the rent is one question, but then also your expenses in life are another question. So creating environments in which, folks can reduce their expenses creates a much more affordable lifestyle inherently. So, again, really exciting start to this process. Mr. Chairman, and this is something that I will work with the team on as well. But of course, when, as this kicks off, we've got a really robust and vibrant downtown Cleveland Residents Association. I know that they will be very interested in being intimately involved in this process. 5 years ago when I joined City Council, the organization was great, but it didn't have the legs it does today. And now the organization, is very involved and meets on a regular basis and is very connected into our downtown residential base. So just to the team at Bedrock, of course, that's a key partner that we're going to want to have along in every step of the way of this process to ensure that our downtown residents are cued in, because I live over in the suburbs in Ohio City. Some of my downtown residents think it's the suburbs over there because I live in a single family home, not the dense downtown environment. It's far away, right? Even though it's right over the bridge. But the point is that they've got insights that I may not. They've got insights that no one on this call may have. So it's important to me that we acknowledge and ensure that they're at the table in this conversation about the redevelopment of our riverfront. But again, in closing, Mr. Chair, I just want to say that this is a very exciting step, and I'm excited to ensure that this is a community that not only embraces our natural resource in the river, but that is publicly accessible with mixed income housing. And again, not only because that's the right thing to do, but that's a sustainable thing to do to ensure that folks have access to high quality housing in our downtown neighborhood, and that we create seats at the table for the community every step of the way. So again, support this piece, Mr. Chair, and appreciate the team presenting it today.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilman, and certainly respect that those thoughts of how important this is and how it reflects on our entire region. So, Councilman Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also just very excited about this project. Whenever we have projects like this, it's not just about the downtown. This is actually something that I think Councilman Jones said that's very important, is how we actually can retain population. And, a lot of people, which I call the gray tsunami, are starting to come back into Cleveland neighborhoods where their kids actually leave out of Shaker schools and Lakewood schools, and then they want to move back into the city. So one of the things I was really excited about with this is how it does become age friendly and how it does not just suit the millennial crowd, but how it actually really caters to the seniors and people that are 60, 70, and even 80 years old that want to move back into a vibrant city core after they've lived in very cavernous and spacious houses out in the suburbs. And now that their kids are gone or their families are downsized, that they want to move into more manageable environments. So I just encouraged by what I've seen in talking to the Bedrock company, that it will accommodate that. And I hope that most of the projects that we do keep that in mind, that it's not just the millennial population that we're trying to attract back to the center city and back to neighborhoods like Larchmere and like Buckeye and East 93rd, but also that gray tsunami that are the retired folks that want to live in the center city. So I see a lot of elements that attract that population in this, and I look forward to that. The other thing is, I do think that Bedrock and Mr. Gilbert's family of companies have been very good at making sure that we have diversity and inclusion. And I think that the fact that they are building this out based on that philosophy is huge. Had the opportunity to talk with the team, and I know that they're committed to that. So I strongly support this, and once again, look forward to working with Bedrock on making this a reality. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Griffin. And did Councilman McCormick ask you to say that about the gray tsunami? So for those of us who are getting older, or because he knows my sister and brother-in-law just moved in town around the corner from him from Fairview Park back to Cleveland. And but I don't dare call my brother-in-law gray tsunami because I want to be invited for Thanksgiving. Do I have any other hands up or any other additional comments? Director Collier, Director Ebersol, Nadia, any other closing comments?
I just want to say this is an example of strategic alignment and the fact that we have Bedrock, at the table to capitalize on the strategies that have been laid out for the Cuyahoga River Valley. And again, I do want to emphasize that this River Valley is of strategic significance to all of us, as Councilman Griffin alluded to. And our river and waterfront, Lake Erie waterfront, are going to be key to helping to stabilize and advance our city and make it competitive, for the future. So we're excited, about the work that's going on. There's a lot of fingerprints on this, and I cannot emphasize that enough, that it'll take everybody kind of rowing in the same direction, no pun intended. But definitely, this is something that is much needed, and just want to thank Bedrock for the partnership.
Great. Nadia, any final comments?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair Francotelli. I do want to just express my appreciation. I appreciate all the feedback and input we've received today, and we'll definitely incorporate all of that as we embark on this 18-month process. As Director Collier stated, we're really excited to really be part of the vision of the Valley and really implementing and collaborating with you all so that it can be comprehensive, they can be reflective of the community, the city of Cleveland, and really become a world-class destination spot, really just taking advantage of the waterfront and making sure we take into account how to rehab some of the aging infrastructure. So really looking forward to all of you. We're available whenever, and we'll continue to work through the city and the city council to make sure we respond to your needs.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. I'll be sure to talk to Councilman Bashir Jones and have him send you something Cleveland-centric to put on your board behind you, so the next time you come on the screen, you'll.
Well, by the way, I do have a Cleveland map. You just don't see it that way.
Great. No further questions or comments. Ordinance number 867, 2021 stands approved as read. Thank you all very much. And if I can, before my colleagues leave, I have Manager Jason Powers on the call. Hi, Jason. We had an ordinance introduced yesterday that is very time sensitive. I would like to do this, read this ordinance for discussion purposes, and then have Manager Powers talk about this ordinance. It's ordinance number 942, 2021, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into an agreement with CHN Partners and or its affiliates to provide a loan loss reserve for loans to eligible homeowners to assist with acquisitions and rehabilitation for a period of 5 years. Manager Powers, can you talk about what this legislation is about?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As you all may recall, earlier this year, I presented on the Middle Neighborhoods program, and one of the policy recommendations that we developed was the need for a mortgage product, a loan product that home buyers could utilize in our neighborhoods to immediately invest in their properties. We do not have an acquisition rehab product that is accessible. One of the big challenges of the products that are currently on the market is that they come with exuberant fees through HUD. They also do not provide the technical assistance, and it becomes in some cases a bit of a trap for home buyers who are looking to begin that investment with the extra capital. And so we knew we needed to work on this. Council allocated a $1 million sum this year in the budget for a loan loss reserve. And we set about with an RFQ over the summer looking for an administrator of the program. This legislation will allow the Director of Community Development to contract with CHN Housing Partners and Village Capital Corporation, who jointly applied and presented a really strong application. Very briefly, their application merges the two most important capacities that are necessary. The first being the ability to not only underwrite and produce these mortgages, but the know-how of doing so in these kinds of communities. And then the technical assistance of working with home buyers and the draw schedule of working with contractors, which Village Capital has significantly developed capacity within. So we finished our RFQ approximately 60 days ago. We've made our selection, and this will allow us to contract with CHN and VCC, start working on the mortgage underwriting schedule next spring, and hopefully be creating mortgages for our middle markets throughout Cleveland beginning into next year.
Thank you very much. So as you noted, we did approve this budget when we did our early hearings. I would open this up to comment. Councilman Bashir Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair, man. I do want to say, man, during this journey of mine, you've been one of the best chairs, man. Honestly, man, you're serious, you're very focused. You know what you're doing, and you got a real passion and tease, man, and I appreciate it. I really learned a lot from you, man. I really did. You know, I do want to say on this specific topic, Chair, and to my colleagues, that it's very important. And Jason, I love your background, by the way. I don't know what you're doing, man, but the tie in the background is really pretty cool. I really like it. And you like, man, you're good, man. You're looking good, man. But I do want to say that I've before, and that is, you know, you have places like CHN, and really trying to work with CHN right now because they have a few properties in my neighborhood, particularly one on Chester, Erie Square. And I've asked them for maybe over a year now to put up something, whether it's a backcourt or something, because you have a lot of people who are coming back there. They're just kind of standing there, standing around. And maybe there's a fear that, hey, if we make a basketball court, it's going to bring the wrong crowd. I don't know. It really does. It decreases violence. More parks and green spaces that we build, it decreases violence. So I need for the CHN, for MECOs, all of these different housing institutions, and I want people to know that, you know, we're going to be really paying attention to this, whether it's through working with people like the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, or working with your mayor, and really paying attention to housing organizations looking for more support from the city, but not of the current products they have. Now, I'm not saying CHN is doing that, but what I am saying is CHN, FAMICO, CMHA, and every other housing organization should not have access to more city support and more dollars if they have not shown that the product that they have is not being taken care of. And you can go to some of these places, and there are people who are living in abject poverty, Jason, really. I mean, apartments that are not being taken care of. And listen, some of this has to do with people not taken care of. So we understand the human factor there. But what I'm saying is that these organizations that are fighting to get more money to build new products, to move to the west side and build better products, have to take care of their products that they have on the east side of Cleveland, on the west side of Cleveland as well, wherever it is. So, Chair, I don't know if besides us personally asking the questions, if there's something that we have in place to be able to say, well, listen, before we move forward, let's look at what you have. And let's take public comment on a resident feel that they're being treated where they are. And if it's not up to par, then, you know, getting more money, getting land, getting more support should not be even on the table. I just really want to highlight that. And that's not to get on CHN. I'm hoping CHN build a basketball court, because my children back there shouldn't have to shoot on monkey bars or shoot on a big bucket. They should be able to hone their skills on a basketball court, because parks is known to decrease violence and not increase. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I think certainly, recognizing that what amenities we look for are important as we continue to develop projects, that we make sure we have the assets around that match that. So that's critically important. Councilman Slife.
Thank you, and hopefully the garbage truck outside isn't too noisy in the background. But thank you for bringing this to the committee today. I've been in close communication with Mr. Powers about many different aspects of the middle neighborhood strategy. And anecdotally, we talk a lot on council about how in Cleveland, in many cases, you can actually pay less for a mortgage than people do in rent. But the challenge is finding that down payment, or being able to purchase the house and then make repairs. And representing a neighborhood with many different housing typologies, a large number of which are perfect entry-level homes for either first-time home buyers, younger home buyers. There's a great marriage to be made of housing and people that are looking to buy homes in Cleveland. And I think that having this loan loss reserve will help buyers get into homes, buy in our city, and then also make those necessary repairs that are just going to be required whenever you're buying a home that was built in most cases prior to 1950. So my only request, Mr. Chair, would just be to make sure that as this moves forward through the committee process, to circulate all of the information about it, just because I would anticipate not all members are as familiar with it as maybe you and I are.
Great, absolutely. I'm sorry, Manager Powers, did you have a slide that you wanted to pop up?
It basically just covers what I expressed. So if everyone can grasp it, then we're good.
No problem. Councilman Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this miscellaneous, or are we still on this piece?
We're still on this piece.
Okay, I just had a miscellaneous because I just wanted to invite everybody to something, but I'll wait.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Do we have any other comments on this piece? I'm checking through here.
I guess my comment, Chair, if that's okay, I guess my comment to Mr. Powers is it possible, not even just this property here with CHN and their housing products, but is it possible to create some type of report card, so to speak, of just whether it's CHN, MECOS, CMHA, the housing authorities? Is it possible to kind of get a list of what those properties are and, you know, what is the current status of those properties and how they're doing, just so that the council members are able to take a look at it and see, hey, there's some more work that's needed here. Before we talk about doing this, let's take care of that. Is that possible?
To the chair, to the councilman, as far as creating scorecards and reports on all of the various programs that our contracts have, it certainly is possible. And I think that the administration, we can work on, as we have various programs that interact with the administration through different partners. I think we should. I think many of them do. But for this particular one, we will be creating within the contract monthly reporting requirements, not only so we know how the product is going out, what kind of engagement's happening, and if it's being successful, but also because Cleveland's money is on the line in this loan loss reserve. And as you know, the taxpayers deserve that each of these dollars that is supporting lending in these markets be followed closely. So we'll be doing monthly reports. And at the end of the first 5 years, we'll be creating a report to show what's happened, what's worked. If it didn't work, we'll adjust. And if it does work, we'll be hopefully coming to you all for a little bit more to keep growing the program.
Thank you so much. Chair, is there a community benefits agreement with along with this? And if it is, within that, can you make sure that green space and parks, you know, whether it's basketball courts or play too much tennis, even though I do a little bit, but if there's a basketball court or green space that can also be a part of, you know, going forward, you know, that's a part, you know, that, a sufficient, for some of them, they have washing machines and dryers. You know, these things are small to some of us because we can easily get in the car and take our clothes somewhere else to wash them or go somewhere and take a walk. But for community members that are basically financially stuck in a specific location and not able to go anywhere out because of neighborhood violence or whatever the case may be, having all these things mean the world to them, right? So is it possible to kind of have hey, we want to make sure that you have a sufficient wash machine and dryer. We want to make sure that you have a play park for the children, that there's a garden, there's a green space. Is it possible for that to be a part of the community benefits agreement?
So to the chair, to the councilperson, with this specific product, the oversight that's really critical to make sure that the end users are protected is the technical assistance. So when you make a loan on a home and you have that extra capital to put the roof on, put the front porch on, put in a kitchen on day one, you wouldn't be taken advantage of. That's sort of that support. The city of Cleveland's responsibility in this particular contract is not even a grant nor a specific loan. It's actually capital that'll simply sit in an account and hopefully will never be touched. It's only if there's defaults in the program. So that money actually in its entirety could come back to the city of Cleveland. So we wouldn't have any leverage to create a community benefits agreement in this kind of program. The benefit is that they're making loans basically using our money as a support.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. I get all of that. And I know that this is what I'm saying is not what you're specifically talking about. But what I'm saying is in the overall scheme of things is that the city of Cleveland always has leverage because this is the city of Cleveland. And what I want for all of us to consider is that there's certain things that I think, even though CHN also does single homes, but they have larger products, larger apartment buildings, that we should just expect for them to do certain things. CHN, I'm just talking about every housing authority. We should just expect for them to do certain things. So maybe that's not for you, Mr. Powers. Maybe that's just for, you know, my colleagues to consider something. But, you know, but thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. And certainly, I think the program that Manager Powers is talking about is a scattered site program generally, an infill. But I think as the point you're making, Councilman Jones, is really around our denser projects and some of the larger CHN and other projects like that. I think being laser focused on when we look at a project like that has that kind of density, Yet we identify if there's not green space or play space within the development, but what is around it and what makes it work. I know that Councilwoman Gray is working with University Settlement on their dense project across the street on Broadway, but redeveloping the park across the street was very important, and that park got done. But seeing how important a project fits in with what around it and how it relates to the development is important, and making sure people have access to play recreation if it's not within it, but at least nearby, so that we can identify people aren't just, like you say, playing basketball in monkey bars or something that doesn't reflect what really is the needs of those families in that area. And I'll just to be direct, there's also other departments that we work with, including our looking at public space. If I'll do a quick share screen. This is something we did at a park that I played at a lot. This is Warsaw Park, where we're able to use art as part of making that park very welcoming. This does also have workout stations that the Browns installed, but we used art within this park to make sure that we show that we can be creative on how our park spaces look. And so Warsaw Park, where I grew up, was an important part of our art. It still is an important part of the fabric of our neighborhood. So appreciate those comments, Councilman. Any other further comments as we are having discussion on ordinance 942, 2021? No further comments. Thank you, Jason. We'll make sure this gets to finance so we can get this timely done before the end of the year. I know this was a critical piece that needed to get done for us. So with that, I want to thank my council members for their patience. We have a lot of legislation coming up before the end of the year that needs to get done. So we may have a couple of additional meetings that will need to occur. Before we adjourn, I have comments again also by Councilman Griffin and Councilman Bashir Jones. Councilman Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I have an invite in everyone's box. And also I'm going to send it out to everyone again. This upcoming Friday, October the 29th at 1 o'clock at right at it's about 9015 Buckeye Road. We're going to have the groundbreaking for the Wood Hill Up Next project. And I know that you guys have, really helped, and this council has supported that project. And I really hope that you all can attend. This is not something that's a ward accomplishment. This is something that's great for the entire city. I really hope all my colleagues can join us. Secretary of HUD, Marsha Fudge will be there. Senator Sherrod Brown will be there. We have several other people that'll be there, but most of all, I just want my residents to know how this council really stuck behind this neighborhood and really helped make a catalytic project. So I hope all of you can attend. You do need the RSVP because there will be food and other activities taking place. And it's really a proud moment for our entire neighborhood. And I'd like to thank the chair, Chairman Brancatelli, for the heavy lift that he made to help make this happen, and all of the committee and all of my colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Griffin, and you're correct. This is not a award, but this will get an award for the city to recognize these transformational projects. Councilman Jones.
Thank you so much. Real quick, Chair. I just need your assistance and the city council staff assistance. Just trying to work with Commissioner James Green to get some things moved along in regards to some land acquisition, some city from some of.
You froze up there, I think. You froze up, Councilman. Let's see if we get back. I think Commissioner Green must have frozen his screen. Let's see if he gets back. Are you back on there? Madam Clerk, we can reach out to Councilman Jones and make sure we set up a meeting with Commissioner Green to go over the questions he had.
Yes,
okay, thank you. With that, thank you all very much, and we will adjourn for the day. Thank you.